go to Lynn, or Dr. Lynn, as she likes to be called, I'd just like to say that there are many, many other very good investigators in the Phoenix Lights fray. People like Bill Hamilton, who wrote a very nice book, was very, very energetic in collecting information. Tom King, Tom Taylor, Richard Motzer, even Francis Barwood should be mentioned in this respect.
Yes.
But I thought it would be very interesting to our audience tonight, Art, after they'd heard some of the witnesses, to hear some of the investigators from the Phoenix area who have devoted the last 9 years, or certainly a good portion of their lives over the last 9 years, to collecting the information from the literally thousands of witnesses to these events. And Dr. Lynn is certainly one of those who's not only done that and done it in spades, but has written a book and has produced at least one very nice film, which will be airing in the Seattle area tomorrow, or in the Phoenix area tomorrow. I hope she'll talk about that. But with that, she's perfectly capable to introducing herself and sharing with our audience what she's done over the last year. Why don't we just go to her?
All right, Dr. Lynn Katai. Doctor, welcome to the program. I'm really curious why a physician, what kind of doctor are you?
Actually, that's a great question, and I have to say before I get into that you guys are so fabulous. Peter, Art, everyone that was involved with the investigation, because I stayed anonymous for 7 years. I'll get into that, but it's teamwork here, and to get the word out there and to keep this precious information, as Peter phrased it, which it is precious information, alive, is so important, and that's why I finally came forward. I have been involved not only with private practice, and I was chief clinical consultant at the Arizona Heart Institute's Imaging and Wellness Center, which I gave up this past summer to complete the documentary.
Wow.
But my life's work, and it's really ironic, for over 30 years has been community education. My undergraduate work is in education. I started doing health tips for NBC in Philadelphia in '76, and here as well in Phoenix and USA Cable, and then started a company to produce video and workbook curriculums on vital health issues, the reality of AIDS and teen pregnancy and substance abuse. And I have to say that when this fell in my lap, and was actually started 2 years before the mass sighting, my husband, who's also a physician, and I had a very close sighting to our home. It was mountainside in Paradise Valley, and I happened to get pictures of it at the time, but had no interest or knowledge of this at all. And this is in a private gated area, so when anybody brings up military, I immediately go back to the 95 sighting, which is so poignant and was such an incredible experience, which I go into detail in the book and the documentary.
Well, go into a little detail here. What happened in 95?
In 95, my husband, one wall of our bedroom is a window, so we enjoy a panoramic view of the city skyline, and we know what planes look like and helicopters and streetlights and so forth. And he called, and he's head of different boards and medical boards and so forth, so nothing alarms him. And he sounded alarmed. He says, "Get over here quick." And I jumped out of a bath to go to the window with a towel, and here I'm dripping wet, looking at 3 amber orbs in a triangle formation, like a pyramid, one on top and 2 closely aligned underneath. And I call them orbs because the light did not extend outside the edge. They were self-illuminating, and they were mesmerizing, and the light was very different than any other light I had ever seen. It was a uniform amber color. The guests before, the witnesses, were talking about an amber color. They were definitely amber. That's how I would describe it. Uniform, not with a hot spot like a light bulb, but uniform throughout. Very soft, very mesmerizing, and I knew if I didn't get a picture of it, nobody would believe me. And as I go running to the closet to catch my camera, my husband calls me back to the window, says, "Get over here quick. One of them is disappearing." And as we're watching, the top orb, without budging, and there were 3 distinct objects. You could see 3 distinct objects, about 3 to 6 feet each. They were about 100 yards from our home, a little below us because we're high in the mountain. The top orb started to dim, as if on a dimmer switch. It didn't budge from the other 2. It was extraordinary, and it seemed after it did dissipate that it was still there. That was the feeling. But we couldn't see it anymore, and I got out on the balcony. I shot a picture of the 2 lower orbs. And it took me a long time to admit this, and the first person I admitted it to was Jim Delatoso, who will be with us shortly. But it seemed not only that there was a total silence, it was very eerie, as if time had stopped, but it also seemed that there was an intelligent presence watching me just intently as I was looking at these two bottom orbs. And the next thing I remember, the left bottom orb started to disappear, and I quickly shot a picture of that. And that was the only picture that turned out at the time. But it was monumental for me because it verified that we did see something unusual. I did get a picture of it, but I didn't know what to do with it. I knew nothing about this topic or anyone involved with it, so I just wondered.
So that's what got you involved, Lynn.
Well, what really got me involved was 2 years later, the lights came back again.
Oh, no. I know. Hold on to that for a moment. We're paying for earlier misattention. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll move on from what did get her involved. And you know that'll do it, folks. As it did with me. Once you've seen something and you've seen it close up, it changes your life. Once again, Dr. Lynn Kitai. And, Doctor, it's always fascinating to know what gets somebody involved, and, of course, Peter Davenport back as well. And that obviously would have done the trick. I had a very similar experience, and your life just changes. Now, you said you worked well, you did, because I've not heard your name until now. So then when the Phoenix Lights came along, you jumped all over it, apparently, and began an investigation. Is that correct?
Well, there's so much more to the story than March 13th. Actually, 2 months before the mass sighting, the lights came back. And, of course, the 2 years in between, I did wonder what this advanced technology was, if I would ever find out what we saw, what it was all about.
Right.
And here the lights come back, but at a distance. And I started documenting them again on film. As a scientist, I guess I just felt compelled to do so. And the second night of which is really interesting and very poignant, the same formation appeared in the same location as would happen 2 months later on March 13th. And I happened to catch this phenomena head-on, turning into a V, 6 pictures in a row. It was so unnerving because it was a massive span of these orbs in an equidistant formation that the next morning I called around, found air traffic controllers at the airport who saw the same thing, admitted to me that they were in airspace, that it did not show up on radar, and moved in tandem. In their own words, there were lights that seemed to be attached to something, but they couldn't quite see what it was attached to, moving very slowly behind South Mountain.
Doctor, could you see any form within the lights at all?
No, I could not. But when you look at the pictures themselves, and anybody that's interested in taking a peek at some of the pictures that I took, because I have a plethora of pictures that I've actually gone to great lengths to have explained to me. University of Arizona, Arizona State University, Brooks Institute of Photography, and across the board. And Jim will share as well.
Sure.
I've been told that no one ever has taken 35 millimeter and video from the same vantage point prior to, during, and after.
Where can they see them?
Sighting. My website is www.thephoenixlights, plural, thephoenixlights, one word, .net. Make sure it's .net.
www.thephoenixlights, plural, .net. Got
and
it.
they can also take a peek at the 2-minute trailer of our documentary as well, which I'll talk about in a sec. But
I hope
really changed my life. Let me tell you.
I hope it'll not change your site. We bring many of them down, and there's going to be a lot of people headed there right now. All right, so you investigated for a very long time in terms not only as a witness and somebody taking photography, but as an investigator. So what have you concluded, Doctor?
Well, actually, it wasn't until a week after the mass sighting, and I happened to catch the one of the handful of videos that night of the 3 lights over the city. it wasn't until a week later when I saw Jim Delatoso on the news with my video, because I happened to walk into an investigator's home to take a look at my picture from '95 and the other data that I had been accumulating, because I was just so curious. I wanted somebody to give me an answer and someone of credence to take a look at it.
Yes.
And right away the news was badgering him for information. I said, hey, this isn't about me, but please take a sample of my video and share it with the news people. And my video ended up on all the stations. A week later, I see it there as well with Jim Delatoso showing the same amber orbs and triangle formations from all over the world. That was the first I heard of it. That really blew me away. Now, not only had thousands of people who were purposely looking up at the sky that evening at the Hale-Bopp comet saw the same thing that I had been seeing, but this was happening worldwide. I had no idea. And that really set me on a journey where I pushed my entire professional life aside for 4 years to try to find a logical source and meaning for what I have witnessed and photographed. I have yet to find it. If anything, my meticulous inquiry really opened up a whole new world to me that eventually I felt obliged to share. And so I did. I finally gave up my medical career. And
that's astounding. You would give up a medical career to pursue this. Have you come